Alright, in my ongoing quest to, let's say, complete my backlog of stuff that I've been meaning to do for a very long time, let's get a micro review out of the way, a mini review. Whatever I call those. I don't even remember, it's been a long time. Let's get a mini review, let's call it, of the Amphibia pilot out of the way. Because it's actually kind of interesting. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the plot of the pilot in this review, because there's nothing really to talk about. This doesn't have a plot. It's not a pilot episode. It's more an extended teaser / proof of concept. It shows what I believe to be 3 phases of the plan for Amphibia overall as a series. The initial establishment of the premise and the world, the expanding of the characters' heroic roles, and then some allusions to what I think are things that might happen later down the line. It starts out with Anne talking about how much she's coming to appreciate her life in what at that time was called Amphibiland. I think Amphibia sounds a whole lot better, but still it's an interesting thing to note that the name of the location and therefore the name of the show would have originally been different. She's hanging out in Wortwood. I'm not sure if it's called Wortwood in this version, but it's what would eventually become Wortwood. And we see some examples of some of the early series Anne and Sprig shenanigans, as well as some of the slice of life type of stuff that they got up to back then. Then there's an allusion to the fact that there is a deep lore to the show, an allusion to the overarching plot of season 1 with the toads at the tower and stuff. And then we dip into a montage to music, it's pretty solid, of just random stuff. And I didn't catch any moments from this that were one-to-one equivalent to things that we've actually seen in the show. We saw what looked like might have been newts, but I'm not 100% sure that they were. There was no Andreas. We didn't even see Anne's friends, except toward the beginning, in the photograph that she carries around. An early version of the photograph she carries around. We didn't see them in person, and it looked like their designs hadn't really been refined yet. Which makes me wonder if at some point early on in this, the other girls weren't supposed to be part of the story. That they were just Anne's incentive to get back. Because we see Grime order his guys to bring him the human, which could have been Sasha. That could mean Sasha, but it could also mean Anne. Who frickin' knows? And I say this because one of the interesting things that we see is Sprig, or the Sprig equivalent in this pilot, wielding a sword that seemed to have a bit of a blue tint to it, kind of like the glowy sword that we've seen Anne using in the most recent opening to fend off somebody else with a weapon, which makes me think maybe, and I've said that the show seems to be leaning towards this anyway, maybe originally Sprig was supposed to be more the focal hero of the show and take up more of a heroic role, and Anne was just supposed to be kind of what Sprig ended up being. The overzealous, fun-loving, sidekick-type character who offers more support, or whatever. Because Sprig's thing in the show has always been the slingshot, which is more a support-style distance weapon than something like a sword, right? And like I've been saying from the very beginning, especially stuff early on, used to frame Sprig as if he was more the protagonist. Like, the central focal protagonist. And if that was originally the intention, that would explain why some of the earlier stories, especially, are still kind of framed that way. There were clear allusions in this pilot to the supernatural elements of the world. We saw monsters rising out of a swamp. We saw giant animals. Still just giant bugs and birds, which is interesting. It means that was always part of the initial plan for the world. And we also saw the things that I think might have been newts. They might have been like newt priests. Maybe we'll even see some equivalent to them once we start getting into the temples in the second half of season 2. But we saw them, they had glowing eyes. And they had glowing eyes corresponding to one of the 3 colors, which makes me think if we see equivalents to these characters, they were pink, in case you were wondering. But it makes me think if we're going to see equivalents to these guys, we're going to see them at specifically one of those 3 temples. That the equivalents to these specific characters from the pilot are going to be at just one of the 3 temples. Yeah, my stutter's kind of bad today. Good thing this is a short video, right? Overall, it was pretty good, though. The sense of humor in this pilot was pretty solid. The visuals were good. Like, obviously, the frogs especially, the design for them here is pretty different than we get later on, but I think for the most part they're still recognizable as beings from this same world. And Anne's design is practically her final design, which I thought was interesting. That means even if Sprig was originally intended to be the central hero of the story, her design probably came first before most other things about this show. In fact, I haven't looked this up to confirm it, but I'm pretty sure she even had the same VA, whereas Pilot Sprig definitely did not. Or else if he did, they were doing a very different voice. There was also more like active fantasy-style hijinks in this than what we see in most episodes of the show, which means either they were just playing up the fantastical and action-y elements, or else things are going to get more action-packed as the show goes on, and that was a taste of that. And I will say that that scene with Sprig wielding a sword does at least support my idea that there is some intention for him to be a sort of co-hero of the story. It might even support my idea that he could be a potential heir to the ruling legacy of this world, destined to take over and make positive change at the end of the story. Overall, this obviously still unfinished thing was a pretty, I think, cool and effective microcosm of exactly what this show is overall, and I can definitely see why this would have gotten the show picked up for actual episodes. If you guys are interested in checking out the pilot and you haven't seen it yet, it's called Exclusive Pilot Amphibiland. It's on the World of Amphibia YouTube channel, available for free. It's like 1.5 minutes long or something. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was solid. But let me know what you guys thought of it in the comment section down below. Until then, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.